Welcome back to the channel. We are in the gun room today for the start of another range accessory review. So this is another one sent out to us from Highwild. This is one of their DIY dueling tree kits. So I seen this on there and this thing looked really cool, as I think this would lead a lot more people to be able to use something like this versus the actual traditional style. Just because this uses just a 2x4 to put it together. You don't need any welding skills or anything of that nature. You basically just cut up an 8-foot 2x4 and you've got a base and you have your stand in order to mount your brackets on for your targets. So this is 3/8 inch thick AR-500 steel, and I will put in a recommended shooting distance shot from their website so you guys can see that at the top of the page here right now. And just to kind of go over some of the features. So one kit of this, so for I think they run $76, one kit is going to give you 2 of these brackets, and again they just slide down onto a 2x4. You bolt through. All the hardware is included. I do like the fact that they have these deflectors welded to the fronts of the brackets. All this is AR-500 construction, so you don't have to worry about that, especially with pistol rounds. And then we have our nicely, of course the powder coating is not going to last very long, but they are well done. So this is 3/8 inch thick AR-500 steel, so you could use this with centerfire rifle out to proper distances as well if you wanted to do that. And the cool thing is the base. So this is one of their bases. This is sold separately. One of these kits for two brackets and 2 targets is around $76. And then this here, the base to hold all this up, this is around, it's less than 40 bucks. But again, the only thing you need to assemble this is an 8-foot 2x4. So about 4 foot high on the stand here and about 1 foot for the legs, and you're good to go. I mean, it really doesn't get much easier than that. And one cool thing I seen is that this could be something that you could take apart relatively easy and, you know, throw it in the back of your SUV or your truck and take it wherever you needed it to go. So that's pretty cool. Now I would recommend getting at least 2 of these kits. So you're looking at about $150 for this. So less than 200 bucks, you could have a dueling tree for you and your buddies. That's a pretty good deal, I'm not gonna lie. But, and I'll be honest, I've reviewed a lot of the Highwild steel, and it has held up great. It has held up absolutely great. My 2 silhouettes, they have been beat down with everything from 9mm to 300 Win Mag, and they are still going strong. So I have no doubts that this stuff here will do what it needs to do. The only thing that we'll have to wait and see is the welds. So they weld on these eyelets to the flappers. I mean, that's only a matter of time, guys. I don't know. I can't give an honest review about that because I won't be able to shoot it enough for this video. But the other welds have held up extremely well. No issues at all on my other targets. So I have no doubt that these will do just fine. But let me get a 2x4 cut up, and I'll get some install footage and kind of show you how it goes together. And then we'll get this thing back to the hide and put some rounds on it. Alright guys, so we got all of our pieces laid out here. So we got all of our components for the target assembly itself. Cut me up 3 1-foot pieces of scrap here, and then we've got a 4-foot center post here cut up. So I'm just going to kind of go through the basics of how to install this, I guess, and then I'll save you guys some of the displeasure of watching all of it. But one key thing to point out here about the base is on this part here. So there's a little adjustment screw here, and there's also this kind of this metal bracket here. So after you put your center section in like so, this is going to go in like this to push up against that board, so that way that bolt doesn't just screw itself into the wood. So that's a nice little touch, and you snug it down with the included Allen key. That's pretty cool. And then obviously it's going to be I'm actually going to put those legs on last, just so I can keep it here on the table a little easier. But now there is no directions on like your spacing for your paddle holders. So I'm going to kind of just go along here and just something that looks fairly even, and then mark them and then we'll get some holes drilled, and then we'll get those fastened on. Okay, so I went ahead and after some various measurements, I've opted on 8 inches a piece between the 4 different brackets. So I'm just going to clamp each one of these on. Now that I have them marked, I'll get the holes drilled through, and then we'll get the hardware put on and get those tightened up, and then we'll be ready to put the legs on, and then we'll put the flappers on. All right, drilling our last set of holes here. Last one. Oh, finish it from this side here. All right, so there's that, and then here's our bolt. So I just stuck each of them in, kind of hold their places. Now you want to make sure that you're putting these brackets with the angle facing down, so that way it throws all of the spalling onto the ground. But let's take and we'll flip this over, and we'll get the hardware put how it needs to be put here. So one of these, and then one of these. Pretty easy kit. I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. One cool thing about it, I mean, you can put it together with minimal tools. So, I mean, you could do this with a handsaw, and you know, most everybody has a drill. You can get you a cheap drill from Walmart or something like that. Would be more than adequate just to get your holes drilled in your wood here, and then it's just a matter of tightening everything down. Other than that, so it's a relatively easy kit. I like the construction on it so far. Pretty simple to follow. Again, you're just going to kind of have to decide what distance to put your brackets at to hang your paddles. Again, I settled on 8 inches in between, so there is no directions, you know, outlining the optimal distance. So kind of made a executive decision as to what I thought might work best. So, and then just sort of split the difference between those distances across the length of our 2x4 center support here. So trial and error. I guess we're just going to have to see if it works, but it should. I mean, it should. I did check to make sure that there was not going to be any interference with the paddles. So that's going to be really the main thing, is to make sure that you don't have any issues with the paddles hitting each other whenever they get swung. So that's not a huge deal, but just be mindful of that. Take you a little extra time just to make sure that you get all of those as they need. I guess we could put some extra washers on this side to kind of protect the powder coating, but it's not a big deal if you don't want to do that. I don't ever have any intentions of taking this back apart, with the exception of possibly having to replace the center 2x4, which I guess that just depends on how good a shot you are. So I fully expect, in my case, to have to replace it more often than probably some of you guys, but I think nonetheless it's going to be a pretty fun time, especially if you got somebody that you can take out shooting with you, or heck, you could even take this to, I mean, your local range, meet up and other shooters. Hey, you want to come over and shoot the dueling tree with me? Be a good way to kind of introduce yourself to other like-minded people in a more public settings, so that'd be pretty cool if you're not fortunate enough to have your own private range. But I'll go ahead and put the rest of these flat washers on here, and we should be good to go. Get these tightened down, and then I'll probably pause the camera and go ahead and get the legs stuck on. They're pretty easy. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to the legs. Again, they do recommend those being cut at 1 foot. So 3 1-foot pieces of 2x4 and installing them into the bracket. So, and those are just held by a single lag bolt. So like I said, I mean, you don't even need a lot of tools. You don't need to weld anything. It's basically just getting yourself a 1-foot tube or a 8-foot 2x4, so 1 8-foot stud from Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that, and you're basically good to go. So that's pretty sweet. Let's see here. So I'll go ahead and pause the camera just to save you all from having to watch this part, although it won't be too long with the impact. And that's really all there is to it. Sort of makes short work of that, that's for sure. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to turn this over, I'm going to put the legs in, I'll show you what that entails, and then we'll get these paddles put on. So legs are held on with just 3 of these little bitty lag screws. So pretty easy there. One in each of the legs. Just kind of hold it. And that's really it. So your base is taken care of after that point. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this, well, I'll do the first one here so that way you guys can see the install of the paddle as well. Let me reposition the camera, get you guys maybe a better angle of that down here, and let me lower this a little so you guys can see it, how it works. There we go. And so you have these big, large bolts here, which I am going to take and put some good old Seal Glide on those just to give them a little bit of lubricant. This is just a silicone lubricant. Use this stuff all over the place on instances where you need stuff to be weather resistant. The water doesn't really bug this stuff, so we'll that in there, slide your paddle in, the bolt goes in, and then you have a lock nut, nylock nut. Now you want to make sure that you don't tighten these down all the way or they won't flap, so you'll bend that in and you'll cause friction there, and that won't work. So then that's all you do, and you do that to your other 3, and you're ready to take this shooting. So I'm going to put the rest of those on, and I'll meet you guys with it back at the hide. All right, so we got our Highwild Dueling Tree Kit here put out. We're at the recommended 10 yards from the target. I'm going to be shooting my Glock 17 clone. This is in 9mm, so there's basically 2 things I'm wanting to check. One, is that base going to be stable enough to take hits and not completely topple over? And 2, are the flappers actually going to flap? However, shooting 9mm, that's kind of to be determined, but we can always rectify that shooting either 40 or 45, so on and so forth. But first shots here, let's see what happens. Nice. That's fun. I'm not gonna lie. Let me move the target cam a little bit closer. That way you guys can see some shots on target, and we'll get some final thoughts on our DIY dueling tree kit. All right, so some final thoughts on our DIY dueling tree here from Highwild. This thing's fun, man. And like I said, it's less than 200 bucks. So get you 2 of these, a quantity of 2. So one of these flapper kits comes with 2 flappers and the bracket. Get you 2 of these kits. These run around 76 bucks a piece. So you're looking at about 155 for both of these, about another 40 for the base. And you're basically ready to rock and roll. Run by Lowe's and get you a 2x4 and you're good to go. Now, one thing I did see after kind of looking this over after I got done shooting here just a second ago is you can definitely see the spalling. You can see some of the jacketing embedded into the 2x4. I'm wondering if it might be, you know, even worthwhile to take and get like some thin steel pieces. I wouldn't think it'd be overly expensive. You can get them at the hardware store, just a thin sheet of like stainless or something like that, or just regular steel. Cut them to where they're about the width of this, and then just put one single through bolt to kind of knock down the amount of spall that's hitting this 2x4. And I bet this thing would actually last quite a while. But the flapper is definitely flapped. The addition of the Seal Glide, the lubricant inside there, definitely helps. There's no resistance at all. And I have no doubt, since the 9mm to do that, any of the other calibers will knock it pretty good too. And like I said, this is 3/8 AR-500, so if you wanted to set it at 100 yards, you could even do this with carbines. Now that'd be a ball. So if you'd like to see anything else on this, or if you got any questions, post them up. I will have all this information, links and stuff in the description below, along with the coupon code if you'd like to try one of these out for yourself. But please like, share, and subscribe. It really does help the channel. As always, shoot straight. Later.